All right, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Clyde Sukeforth chapter of SABR. I am Bruce McClure, the chapter chair, and we always hold our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner Waterman chapter of SABR in Vermont, Dr. Clayton Truder, chair. Now, this is a very special presentation that we have for you tonight, so we're going to get right into it. Let's go. Tonight's book takes you deep inside the heart of Japan's national pastime, far beyond the box scores and the highlight reels. To discover what truly sets Japanese baseball apart, the author went straight to the source: the players, managers, umpires, team owners, mascots, beer girls, and lifelong fans who live and breathe the sport. Through their personal stories and behind-the-scenes insight, you'll get an insider's look at how the game works and what makes Japanese baseball unique and so much fun. SABR member Robert Fitz has published 11 books and numerous articles on the history of baseball in Japan and Japanese baseball cards. He received his PhD in historical archaeology, try to say that 5 times fast, from Brown University, and ran excavations in New York City before turning to baseball history. He is the founder and chair of the Asian Baseball Committee and recently received the Chadwick Award for lifetime contributions to baseball history. He is currently a curatorial consultant for the Yaku Baseball exhibit at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and he is here tonight to discuss his new book, In the Japanese Ballpark: Behind the Scenes of Nippon Professional Baseball. Robert Fitz, welcome to Northern New England, my friend. How are you?
Thank you, Bruce. That was really an amazing introduction. That's great.
I
I
appreciate
do
it.
cocktail parties and stuff.
I'm available for voiceover work. Uh, it's
That
all
was
yours. I'm out of your way, man.
all right. We're going to try to share my screen, which is always a little bit of fun. So give me a second to get this going. All right. Can people just see In the Japanese Ballpark? We're all good? All right. Let's get started. Didn't track too well on my side. All right, so today we're going to talk about my new book, In the Japanese Ballpark, and we're going to focus on what makes Japanese baseball so much fun. The idea for this book came in 2023 when I was in Japan on a tour of all 12 ballparks in Japan. And we were out there for one of the first nights. It was incredibly hot, and I needed a beer. Now, you probably know that in Japan, you don't have to go to a beer stand. There are beer girls who will bring a beer to your seat. She has a keg on her back. She'll pour you a draft beer. It is ice cold. It's amazing. And that's what I did. But as the game went on, I'm watching this beer girl running up and down the stadium stairs over and over again for hours. And it's like 95 degrees out there. And I'm thinking about her job. This is really difficult. And the more I thought about it is I realized I really know nothing about her job other than she sells me beer. And I started thinking, I also don't know anything about a lot of things in Japanese baseball. What about the umpire? What about the mascot? What is their day like? What do ball players in Japan do before they get out on the field to play? And that gave me an idea for a new book. So what I went out and did is I interviewed 30 people who are involved in Japanese baseball in some aspects. I interviewed a beer girl, some players, managers, umpires, an owner, a former commissioner. I interviewed trainers, agents, a whole slew of different people. And I asked them about their jobs. What do you do all day? What is it like to be in Japanese baseball? And how does it differ from American baseball? Once I had these interviews, and I did them on Zoom mostly, I took the transcripts and I edited them into narratives. The idea is when you read this book is each chapter should sound like you are sitting next to the person and they're telling you their story. Not their life story, but their story of what it's like to be in Japanese baseball. And that will give you the inside, behind the scenes look of the game. Now, I'm going to try something right now, which will work live, but I don't think it will work tonight. Maybe Bruce can help me. Can we get a virtual show of hands of who has been to a Japanese baseball game before?
Looks like one or two.
One or two. All right. And one or two people, Bruce, can you call on one of them and ask them what they like best about the experience?
All right. So, Dave McNeely, can you unmute for just a moment and tell us what you enjoyed about the experience? Oh dear, I don't hear you in our chat. I'm sorry, Dave.
All
Could you
right.
put it in the chat what you enjoyed about your experience, and I'll be happy to. We'll get him his comments in the chat in just a minute. Why don't you head on through?
I'd say note to self, this plan does not work online.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it
Sometimes
doesn't.
it
That's
doesn't.
that's the way Zoom
Exactly.
is.
So for those people who don't know much about Japanese baseball, I'm going to start with a little bit of background. And we're going to start with a short history of Japanese baseball tonight. So the game was first played in the 1860s in the foreign settlements of Japan, especially in Kobe and Yokohama. But the game wasn't introduced to the Japanese themselves until 1872, where this fellow, Horace Wilson, who was a teacher from Maine, up your way, came to Japan to teach English. And he brought along with him a baseball bat and a ball, and he taught his students at recess. Now, the game spread throughout the 19th century in the private colleges and high schools in Japan, in the Osaka area especially. But by 1900, it was played in high schools across the entire country. And basically, by the turn of the century, it could be called Japan's national pastime. Now, in 1905, the Waseda University baseball team traveled to the U.S., to the West Coast, California, and Washington, and they had a baseball tour. They're the first foreign team to come to the United States to play baseball. And they brought back with them the modern techniques of the early 20th century baseball. And Japanese baseball flourished. Soon, American teams, both collegiate and professional teams, were traveling to Japan to play almost every year. By 1915, there was a national high school baseball tournament that was established, and it eventually turned into the tournament we now know as Koshien, which is one of the most popular, most followed sporting events in the world. The game continued to flourish, and by the 1920s and 1930s, the college baseball games were bringing tens of thousands of people into the major matches. But there was no professional baseball at this time in Japan. Well, that would change in 1934, where Babe Ruth and a team of all with American League All-Stars came to Japan. Hundreds of thousands of people came to each game, and hundreds of thousands more actually lined the streets to watch them travel from their hotels to the ballparks. The tour was such a success that the Japanese realized that now was the time for a professional league. And in 1935, the Yomiuri Tokyo Giants were created. And the following year, 1936, Japan's first professional league was created. And that league lasted all the way to mid-1944, where World War II forced it to be suspended for a year. But professional baseball started up again in November 1945. Think about that. 2 months after the end of World War II, professional baseball players were playing again. They started with all-star games, and the next year, 1946, the league started again. American baseball teams continued to come over, and some of the great stars of the 50s and 60s all played in Japan. In 1964, the first Japanese played in the major leagues. He was 20-year-old Mashi Murakami. He came over as a minor league kind of exchange student, but did so well he made the San Francisco Giants in the September of 1964 and pitched also for the Giants in 1965. But a contract dispute between his Japanese team and the San Francisco Giants led to a freeze on all Japanese players coming to the United States until the 1990s. The golden age of Japanese baseball is considered the late 60s and early 70s. And during that time, the two greatest Japanese baseball players of the 20th century, Shigeo Nagashima and Sadahara Oh, both played for the Yomiuri Giants, which won 19 straight Japan Series championships. By the 1980s, the Japanese leagues had changed, and foreign players became some of the most important aspects of each team. And what's interesting about this is many of these foreign players, such as Boomer Wells, you see front and center, Randy Bass off to the right, and the Lee brothers you see there, had very little major league experience, but they were superstars in Japan. And it suggested a wide gap between MLB and NPB talent. But that changed in 1995 when Hideo Nomo came to the major leagues. He was the first, as you know, of many Japanese stars coming to the United States. Now, that same year, Bobby Valentine was invited to come over to Japan to manage the Chiba Latte Marines. So you have Nomo going to the States, and you have Valentine coming to manage in NPB the same year. Also, with Nomo coming to the States, Major League Baseball started to be shown on Japanese television every night. And then the gap between the NPB and the MLB talent started to shrink. Now, as we know, in the 20th century, Japan's national team, Samurai Japan, won 3 World Baseball Classics, showing that the gap has shrunk further. And now the greatest player in the world, and perhaps of all time, is Japanese, showing the rich talent we have over in Japan. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the current league, just for people who are just getting their feet wet in Japanese baseball. NPB, called Nippon Professional Baseball, has 2 leagues, the Central and the Pacific. Each league has 6 teams. The Pacific League uses the designated hitter. The Central League does not until 2027, when the Central League will sadly adopt the designated hitter. 11 of the 12 teams are owned by corporations and have often been used by these corporations as advertising venues or advertising, what's the right word? Well, to advertise their greater products. We're going to run through the teams very quickly. In the Central League, in Tokyo, we have the Yomiuri Giants. And in Tokyo, the Yakult Swallows. In Yokohama, we have the DNA Baystars. In Nagoya, the Chunichi Dragons. In Osaka area, the Hanshin Tigers. And in Hiroshima, the Toyo Carp. In the Pacific League up north in Hokkaido, we have the Nippon Ham Fighters and their gorgeous new ballpark, which kind of looks like a Neiman Marcus, I think. We have the Rakuten Eagles in Sendai. In Saitama, outside of Tokyo, the Seibu Lions. Chiba Latte Marines. In Kobe, we have the Oryx Buffalo. And down south in Fukuoka, we have the SoftBank Hawks. Now, each team, until very recently, only had one minor league team. And in Japan, these minor league teams are not independent the way they are here. They are owned and operated by each franchise. Now, just lately, both the Hawks and the Giants, and I think maybe one other team, have added second and even a third minor league team. But most teams still only have one. Foreign players play in Japan, but they are limited in number. As you can see, there are only 4 foreign players allowed on the major league or their big league roster, and only 3 can be position players, and no more than 3 can be pitchers. Japanese league runs pretty much the same as ours. It starts in very early April and it ends in September. But there are 2 differences. If you look on the schedule in September, you'll see those last 2 weeks are blank. They're held out for rainouts. It rains a lot in Japan. So every team usually has almost a half dozen and sometimes as many as a dozen makeup games held at the end of the season. You may also notice if you look under the Mondays, they're mostly blank. Monday is usually an off day in Japan, and the teams therefore have 6 pitcher rotations, not 5. They also play 143 games per season. Now, their playoffs are a little bit complicated. There's 6 teams per division, and 3 in each division make it into the playoffs. Here's where it gets complicated. In the first round, the second and third place team play each other in the best of 5 series, but all 5 games are held in the second place team's stadium. The winner of the first round plays the first place team in a 7-game series, but the first place team starts with an automatic 1-game victory. So they are up 1-0 to start. And all 7 games, usually, of course, it would be 6, would be played in the first place team's home ballpark again. And then the winner of the Pacific and the Central League play in the Nippon series. Now, if you remember this from Mr. Baseball.
It's over. It's 4-4. A ball game can't end in a goddamn tie.
Yes, there are ties in Japanese baseball.
It's over.
All right, I'm going to take a quick little break for some water. And now we're going to start getting to what I found in the book. So on the diamond, how are NPB and MLB different? To answer this question, we're going to go to the people I interviewed. Matt Merton, an all-star outfielder for the Hanshin Tigers and former major leaguer. Shungo Fukunaga, who pitched for the Hanshin Tigers but spent most of his career in the minor leagues. Trey Hillman, who managed for the Nippon Ham Fighters. Bobby Valentine, Chiba Latte Marines, and of course managed numerous Rangers, Mets, and Red Sox in the major leagues. And Natsuo Yamazaki, who was an NPB umpire. Biggest difference between Japanese and American baseball is the small ball versus power ball. And we'll talk about that in just a sec. So I'm going to read this. This is Matt Merton. The American game is built on the ability to get multiple bases with one swing to score runs. The idea behind this is that it takes fewer hits to score a run as compared to having to string together multiple hits. The Japanese game is predicated on the principle of creating run-scoring situations with a single hit or even no hits by moving up base runners. It's more of a run at a time approach, but it reduces the likelihood of a big inning. So what do we see statistically? Well, as we could probably predict, in orange are the major league runs, and in blue are the NPB runs, and game in the major leagues averages are run greater. And man, that may not sound like much, but if you think about ERAs, if you have one pitcher who has a 3.0 ERA for a career and one who has a 4.0 ERA for a career, one's going to the Hall of Fame and one is going to have to look for a job every now and then. Now, this different approach in how to score runs leads to different ways of swinging in the leagues. In general, Japanese players swing down on the ball or have level swings, the way most Major League Baseball players used to swing. Here's a fellow practicing soft toss. Now we compare his swing to Aaron Judge's, who has probably one of the most exaggerated launch angles in MPB. So not surprising, in the majors, we see a lot more home runs than we do in Japan. As you can see lately, almost twice as many. Surprisingly, we don't see as many as big a difference in the strikeouts between the two leagues. I really expected to see a lot more strikeouts in the majors as compared to Japan, but the Japanese actually strike out just slightly smaller or fewer times than they do in the majors. Now, this different approach to scoring runs also leads to affecting the players physically. As Ichiro Quintana, a trainer, says here, he'll notice that because major league players are looking for launch angles, they are more at a risk for oblique injuries than Japanese players who are swinging down on the ball. Big part of the game in Japan is the sacrifice bunts. Now, until recently, in the first inning, if the leadoff batter got on, the second batter would always bunt him to second. That's a move you will not see in the major leagues. You will really only see that occurring later in the game on a very tight game in the United States. Now let's look at the stats real fast. Japanese baseball in blue, Major League Baseball in orange, bunts per game. I mean, it's really kind of a ridiculous imbalance there. Well, very briefly, I want to talk about the Japanese baseball. Japanese baseball is different from the Major League Baseballs. It's a little bit smaller, what they call a skin smaller. So basically, the same size of the leather that wraps the ball smaller than an MPB. Leather is also tackier and allows the pitchers to put more spin on the ball and really to get sharper breaks. But kind of interestingly, this is something I found in the book that I found fascinating, is until 2011, Japan did not have just one ball. It had up to 5 balls approved by the leagues. And it was up to the home team to decide what ball they wanted to play with for that game. And there were even rumors that one particular team were using 2 balls per game, a livelier ball when their team was at bat and a deader ball when the other team was at bat. So the inside perspective. What did the people I interview talk about the differences for the players between NPB and MLB? Now, in both leagues, players are drafted straight out of high school or straight out of college. But remember, I said that Japan, they only have 1 or maybe 2 minor league teams per franchise. So there are fewer minor league baseball players in Japan, but the minor leaguers are playing on one team. So that means most of the players are not getting game experience. The manager of the minor league team needs to keep his best players in shape and sharp because they might get called up to their big league team, the major league in Japan team. So the younger players, for the most part, are not getting much game experience at all. Minor league players also live in team dormitories. This is mandatory. If you're drafted out of high school, you have to spend 5 years living in the dormitory. If you're drafted out of college, you spend 3 years living in the dormitory. The rooms in the dormitory are like college rooms, they are singles. There's communal baths, there's an 11 o'clock curfew. Meals are all taken in cafeterias. This is the Seibu Lions minor league cafeteria. And for the Hanshin Tigers players, they have a reading requirement every day. Every day, the team will congregate in a space where they can be supervised, and for a half an hour, they have to read. And they're not allowed to read manga. They have to read real books. They then have to talk about what they read in their diaries and hand their diaries in to the dormitory supervisor who will go through them and comment on them. Now, because these young minor league players aren't getting a lot of game time and they're drafted so young, a lot of them lack the basic fundamentals that a major league player would get by going through rookie ball and single A and double A all the way up to triple A. So these fundamentals are taught at the farm team, which is their name for the minor league team, with demanding and long practices. And these hard practices, with the emphasis on the fundamentals, also carry over to the main team, to their big league team, something that former Major League Baseball players who go to Japan complain about all the time. And they do that because they are still getting young players who are kind of phenoms, so they'll move up from the farm team to their major leagues very quickly, but they're really only a year or two out of high school, and they're lacking these fundamentals. So the Japanese professional major league teams go through the fundamentals daily. For example, something you will see in Japan, but you no longer see in the United States. Well, this video is not tracking at all. I hope you guys can see it. Is they still do infield and outfield practice right before the game when the fans are already in the stadiums before every game. What you'll also see before the game, and I hope this tracks better, maybe not, are the players will do both stretching and agility exercises as a team on the sidelines just before the first pitch. That was actually a really funny video. I'm sorry it didn't track properly. Now let's talk a little bit about life as a Major League Japanese player. This is a picture of the Hanshin Tigers visiting team's clubhouse at Koshien Stadium. Okay? This is a Major League clubhouse. Notice the difference. Notice that there are comfortable chairs, there are tables, and there's a TV. And this shows the different attitudes towards the clubhouse between Japan and the US. In Japan, a clubhouse is just a place to change and place your equipment while you're playing. There's no hanging out, there's no card games, media is not allowed that in there, there's no food spreads at all. And when I'm talking, I hope you'll take the time to read the quotes behind me because they'll give you a little bit more detail than I have time to say today. Now, many of these visiting clubhouses at Japan's major league level have no showers. That means that the players on the visiting team have to change their uniforms at their hotel. So they change into their uniforms, they take a bus to the stadium, they play their game, then they immediately go back to the hotel in their uniforms where they shower in their hotel rooms and change out of their uniforms. Okay, while I rest my voice, Bruce, could you take one question from the audience about what it's like about on the field differences between MPB and MLB?
All right. If anybody has a question, drop it in the chat, and I'm happy to ask them. And Gary Joquin has our. Let's see. And where do you want the questions to go toward, Rob? I'm sorry.
You can just repeat them, and I'll break by.
Gary's first question is: Are Japanese fans as demonstrative as U.S. fans? I would have to say yes.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that in a second. Anything on the actual on the field differences?
Can you tell us more about Yamamoto's training methods and how Eastern training methods generally differ from Western training methods?
About Yamamoto, I cannot. I don't know what he's done specifically. Training methods in general, you will see far less weightlifting in Japan. It's something that's really just being emphasized now. You'll see far more group exercises in Japan, a lot more running, a lot more total body workouts, such as you might have had in high school, where you do your running, you all sit there and do your push-ups together and your sit-ups. You're not as likely to see these individualized training methods as you do here. That, however, is changing in the last, say, 10 years as the Japanese players are more influenced by what's happening in the major leagues and have more desire to get to the major leagues. And we'll talk about that at the end of my talk tonight. All right.
There'll be other questions later on. Let's keep going.
Oh, yeah, hopefully plenty. So now we're going to talk about the fan experience and what makes Japanese baseball so much fun. Taylor Foote, who we'll meet in a few minutes, says he's a firm believer that Japanese baseball is way more entertaining than American baseball because of the atmosphere. And I think that's 100% correct. I think the biggest difference is American fans go to the baseball to watch baseball and to socialize with friends and family, where Japanese fans go to the stadium to participate in the game. And that'll be a recurring theme over the next few minutes. Perhaps the most recognizable aspect of the Japanese fans' experience is the Oendan, which are the organized cheering groups. So the concept actually comes from the United States. Back in 1905, if you recall, I showed a slide of the Waseda University baseball team that came to the States. Well, their manager, Isao Abe, was really intrigued by the cheerleading and fan cheers of American football. And he brought that idea back to Japan and introduced it to the Waseda University. And it was quickly picked up by other universities in Japan. So to talk about the Oendan, I interviewed Yatsuto Karibe, he has now retired, the head of the National Hiroshima Carp Private Cheering Foundation. I'll read what he has to say. In the Oendan, our role is to take the lead and conduct the cheering that goes on in the stadium. We're like the conductor of an orchestra. We're at the stadium not so much to cheer on the team ourselves, but rather to enable others to do so. Now, the Oendan sit in the outfield. The home team Oendan is always in the right field bleachers, and the away team is always in the left field. They are only allowed to cheer when their team is at bat, so that the other team, Oendan, can cheer when their team's at bat. So there's no organized cheering for pitchers in Japan. Each player has its own chant, has his own chant that they use to kind of get him psyched up and ready to do better. So here is the chant. I really hope this tracks because it's a fabulous video of Hirokazu Kawase of the SoftBank Hawks. Now, to become a member of the Oendan, one has to apply. You have to fill out an application, go through an interview and a tryout. And you have to have the right skills. You have to have a strong voice. It helps if to play an instrument. You have to have enthusiasm. You have to be ready to travel, but you also have the right temperament because there's lots of rules. For example, you are not allowed to drink any alcohol in the stadium. You're not allowed to use bad language. You're not allowed to cheer out a turn. And any violation will get you kicked out by the team that owns the stadium, but also it might even get your group kicked out. And something I didn't explain yet, but we talk about this in the book, is there's not one ON Den club per team. There's multiple clubs. So when you go to Hiroshima, you'll see the different flags of the different clubs. So there may be 5 or 6 different clubs that come to the home game. There's also travel clubs. These people will go from the home team, from their home town, and travel with the team throughout the country to cheer them on. And there's also clubs within each city. So Hiroshima has a Tokyo club. It has an Osaka club. Now, for the Oendan members, they have to pay for their own travel, and they also have to pay for their own tickets. They do get a section reserved for them, however. Now, during a game, members of the Oendan take turns with the different tasks. Leading the cheers is particularly difficult because it's such a strain on the voice. They don't use megaphones, they don't use mics, and they're yelling to several thousand people up in here in the stands. So basically, most people can only last 1 inning per game. So after leading the cheers, they'll step down and they'll take some time waving a flag or playing an instrument. I'm going to read this because I think this is really important. Karibe talks about the importance of Oendan to Japanese baseball. He says, if you go to a game at a major league stadium, people cheer at the right moments in their own way, in an individual style. That fits American culture, but that wouldn't really go over so well in Japan. Japanese people like rules and like following rules. When we go to a baseball game and somebody is leading the cheers and telling you, this is how you cheer, it's easy for Japanese people to ride that wave and say, okay, I can do that confidently. I feel that if nobody were leading the cheering, then nobody would cheer at all. Our cheering really suits the Japanese people and our style. It allows us to let loose because there are certain rules around how you can let loose. Okay, so the fans, of course, follow the lead of the Oendan, and the fans, are what makes Japanese baseball experience so unique and so much fun. Our super fan that I interviewed is Jenny Roloff Rothman, who lived in Japan about 20 years. And as she says, you cannot have Japanese baseball as we know it without your cheering sections. It's what helps you feel connected. It's one thing to watch a game, but when cheering, I feel like I'm contributing. Now, the fans throughout the entire stadium cheer, of course, but the fans that cheer the most and follow the Owen Den sit in the outfield around the Owen Den in what is known as Gaia. Now, Gaia literally means outfield, but when you say Gaia, you mean the fans who sit near the Owen Den and they follow the cheers. And as Jenny points out, if you're sitting there, you have to do the cheers. It's an immersive fan experience. And of course, they cheer in unison. And as a result, here's something you probably won't see in Japan. You will be unlikely to hear anybody booing or razzing individual players, or especially razzing the opposition. It's rarely done. There's a number of reasons for this. For one reason, Japanese tend not to boo. They don't use that form of complaint. But Japanese baseball does have a long tradition of heckling, especially your own players. But that's on the decline. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because heckling became such a problem that teams encourage the Oendan and the group cheering so that the individual cheering is discouraged. The second reason for that has to do with who's in the ballpark. Now, I don't actually have the figures for this, but from going to many games in both leagues, it's my feeling that more women, and especially more young women, attend Japanese baseball than they do MLB. And groups of young women will go to be fans, not just as an outing. Now, the Carp have been particularly oh, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the very common English word, successful. Carp have been particularly successful in attracting young women, and they're known as Carp Joshi, Carp young women. And they are rabid fans, and you can see them in all their gear following the players around and cheering together. Very important part of Japanese baseball is the merchandise. Jerseys are perhaps the most important. You go to some stadiums, such as Hiroshima, and almost everybody will be wearing one of the red or one of the white Carp jerseys. But in Japan, jerseys are not worn for fashion. You do not wear a baseball jersey around town. You only wear a jersey when you're going to a game. So as a result, the places to buy your jerseys are at the fan shops, which the home fan shops are located at your stadium. It's usually always open, 10 to 8 at night. Or when your team is coming to play at an away game, there will be temporary fan merchandise tents that are set up. But if you go to Tokyo, you will be hard pressed to find a Hanshin Tigers jersey or a Hiroshima Carp jersey. There are no stores in Tokyo to date that sell jerseys from all of the Japanese teams. Very common is also towels. Their towels are a little bit different than the ones we have here because the towels have players' names and numbers on them as well as just team towels. And the fans use these for different traditions. In Tokyo, for the Yomiuri Giants, when the Giants, and some people use merchandise very uniquely, and it's very common to see people dressed up in their gear at the games. So another popular merchandise group is kawaii, or cute merchandise. And as Naomichi Yokota talks about over here in the quotes, they particularly look for kawaii marketing towards women. And it's highly successful because the women tend to buy more merchandise at baseball games than men do. An example of the kawaii merchandise that was really big was for the Yomiuri Giants turning the players into animals and selling them either as key change or plushies. Some of them were tote bags. And here's one of the Giants' best players. Few more examples of kawaii merchandise. These are keychains from different teams. Let's talk briefly about team traditions. Every team has their own traditions at the ballpark. In the seventh inning, in the middle of the seventh inning, instead of singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," the fans will sing their team song, and in some stadiums will do a balloon release. So I have a clip of the Hiroshima balloon release. Now, our most famous tradition is probably at Meiji Jingu Stadium. Whenever the occult Swallows score a run or win a game, we have what is kind of known. And I assume that's tracking as poorly for you guys as it is for me, and you can't really see the umbrellas go up and down, and that's a shame. Some of the traditions are borrowed from major leagues, but given a Japanese twist, such Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about mascots as we go down the list. MPB mascots are among the most popular mascots in Japan. Now, Taylor tells us that in the mascot world, many organizations want to keep the integrity of their character intact. That means not making any sort of admission there's a person in there. And that caused me a big problem because I wanted to interview a Japanese mascot and I wanted to talk to the person about the costume. What is it like to be inside the costume, to perform in the costume? What on a Japanese day when it's about 100 degrees with 98% humidity is it like? And how do you survive? I wasn't allowed to do that. When I interviewed Taylor, the Carp gave me the choice. I could interview Taylor as his mascot, Slyly's helper. And if I wanted to ask Slyly a question, I had to pretend that Slyly was an actual alien. So during the interview, Slyly told me about what planet he was from and how he crashed his spaceship. And Taylor told me about how Slyly, the alien mascot, spends his day. Off limits was what happened when Taylor was inside the Slyly costume and how he spent his day and dealt with the difficulties of that. Now, as I mentioned before, MPB mascots are beloved. Every team has them. They're a big face of the team. But MPB mascots differ from American mascots. NBA mascots in particular are known for their entertainment value and their acrobatics. In Japan, mascots tend to be cute, kawaii. And there's none cuter than DB Starman of the Yokohama Bay Stars, who is a hamster. Now, in case you're wondering, why would the Yokohama Bay Stars have a hamster as a mascot? And if you think about it, Yokohama Bay Stars. If you take this last part of Yokohama, you get Hama. Last part of stars, you get stars. You get Hama stars, hamsters. Other famous mascots are the Giant family of the Tokyo Giants. My favorite, Slyly of the Hiroshima Carp. And yes, he looks an awful lot like the Philly Fanatic. And there's a reason for that. Both the Philly Fanatic and Slyly were made by the same company that did the Muppets in New Jersey. And Slyly, the costume, was actually designed for the New Jersey Nets, who decided that they weren't going to use that mascot after all, maybe because it looked too much like the Philly Fanatic. So they sold the costume and the rights to the character to the Hiroshima Carp. Most famous mascot in Japan is Tsubakuro of the occult swallows. Now, Tsubakuro's actor died earlier this year, and keeping with the integrity of the mascot, when the actor died, that's all the team announced. The actor died, and Tsubakuro will probably be retired. They would not even name who the person was. It wasn't until a friend of the actor came out and announced about the person because she felt that the person needed to be revealed because he was such a famous entity. And Tsubakuro is so popular that his goods are the best selling for the occult swallows. And at least one person in the marketing team told me that he is far more popular than any of the Swallows players. Now, Japan also has something we don't, which is learn about cheerleaders. I interviewed Saori Oruge. I have trouble with her name. Ogure. She is director of the Nippon Ham Fighters Girls and a former cheerleader herself. And she notes that all 11 teams that have cheerleaders, the Hiroshima Carp do not, the girls have like a different style. There are the acrobatic teams. They are the sexy cheerleaders. They are the girl next door cheerleaders, the cute cheerleaders. And they all have these different personas, I guess we'd call it, that they play up to. Now, cheerleaders are more than just dancers on the field. They're very important to increase team support. They go out into the community. They go to schools, elementary schools. They open up stores and shopping malls. They do anything they can to build up the team support. To become a cheerleader, at least for the Nippon Ham Fighters girls, you have to audition. And auditions are held every December, and even members of the current cast have to re-audition every single year. And that's because they don't want them to get stale. They want them always to have their fighting spirit and working hard at their job. And although dancing is their primary attribute, the fighters have hired some girls who don't know how to dance because their personalities were so strong that they felt that they could help with the fan support. And they had to learn to dance after joining the squad. The cheerleaders start their games by meeting the fans as they come into the stadium. They only work home games, and then they do their routines before the game and in some innings in between. They have many rules, and one of them is there's absolutely no fraternizing with the players. They're allowed to talk to the players on the field and at public events that are sponsored by the team, but nowhere else. Now, 10 years ago, the cheerleaders were not paid. It was a volunteer job. But now they're getting a small salary, enough to live off of. And for the fighters girls, all the girls are also giving positions at the fighters girls dance academies, which are incredibly popular in Hokkaido. During COVID, Miss Ogure came up with a dance routine that went viral all over Japan, and it helped catapult the popularity of cheerleaders nationwide, and especially the fighters girls. And it's known as the fox dance, and I'll show you just a little bit clip of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. As the cheerleaders have become more popular, they have their own merchandise now. You can see you can buy fans, you can buy keychains. They have their own trading cards. This has led to greater popularity. This has led to better salaries for them, but it's also led to security issues with over enthusiastic fans. So now when they go out and they do public appearances, they need security with them. Miss Ogure sums up the Japanese cheerleader. And she says, cheerleaders here need to match the Japanese spirit. Two things come to mind when I think about that. One is hospitality, and the other is to put the fans first and think about their wants and their needs and respond to them. In Japan, cheerleading teams place high importance on fan interaction and getting to know the fans and letting the fans get to know us. And she invites us all to come out to Escon Field in Hokkaido to visit them, which is worth doing. Now, we'll leave kind of the best for last, I think, because I think beer girls symbolize Japanese baseball. I had the good fortune to interview two beer girls. One is Noi Sato, who works in Escon Field up in Sapporo, and one is Keiko Suzuki, who works in Koshien Stadium. Now, the beer girls, depending on the stadium, either work for the stadium or they work for the individual beer companies, such as Sapporo or Asahi or Kirin, or they could work for a third-party contractor. The girls can range from 16 years old to about 25, 26. So there's a few in their 30s. Drinking age is 20. So you can be a beer girl before you actually are allowed to drink. There are beer guys. There's a few, but they're pretty rare. Now, their uniforms are owned by their employer. They come in two sizes, small and large, or small and medium, actually. And the girls come in, they pick one, they get changed, and they turn it in at the end of the game. So it gets dry cleaned and ready for the next game. They all follow a routine, and Noi is going to show us her routine. In the host all the fans. And she walks a step, she waves, looking for customer. She'll talk to the customer, some for the small part, because she wants that customer to look. Here she is in the perfect beer. So you can see it's 70% beer and 30%. The keg weighs 20 kilos or 44 pounds, and it contains 26 cups of beer. Now, Noi is under 5 foot tall, and I doubt she weighs much over 100 pounds. So you can imagine how tired she is. Because the girls typically work for about 5 hours at a time, and they walk up the stadium stairs hundreds of times per game. Keiko Suzuki said that her first season working as a beer girl, she lost 15 pounds. And by the end of every single night, her face hurt from spending 5 hours smiling at the customers. When the keg runs out, they have to refill. and they go to a refilling station, and it's run like a Formula One pit stop. They try to get the girls out to resell as quickly as possible. And the fastest change is actually only 13 seconds. And we'll watch one here. The girls are all ranked by by number of sales, and they get prizes for being at the top of their ranking for every week or every month. There's steep competition between the girls. Compensation is roughly 1,000 yen per hour plus 30 yen per cup sold. Now, it doesn't sound like much. 10, 20 years ago, when 100 yen equaled a dollar, wasn't that bad. Now, of course, 100 yen equals 60 cents. But there's been very little inflation in Japan. So most of the girls, since they're college girls, consider that a good income while they're going to school. Occasionally, the beer girls have to deal with unwanted advances from male fans and even stalking in some cases. And it actually has gotten supposedly so bad that NPB outlawed the photographing of beer girls and other employees this past year. Let's read what Keiko Suzuki sums up what a beer girl is. Now, by the way, Yuriko is the Japanese word for the beer girl. As Yuriko, our job is to help the fans enjoy the game of baseball at a higher level. Within our group, we do not call ourselves workers or beer girls or servers. We refer to ourselves as the cast. We see ourselves as part of an important cast that puts on a performance of sorts for the fans to enjoy the game even more. I think that Yuriko represent Japanese hospitality at the ballpark. We bring that aspect of Japanese culture to the game. Overseas fans should remember that the Yuriko girls really want the fans to come to the game and have a good time. I feel that a Japanese baseball game is a unique experience. If they're coming to Japan to experience Japanese culture, baseball is a very important way of doing so. Just briefly, because we're running out of time, we'll talk about ballpark food. Every ballpark serves a large variety of local delicacies. The food is amazing. It's high quality. It's better than anything you will get in the United States. Trust me on that. Most of the teams have this wonderful merchandising idea where they ask their players what their favorite meals are. Then they sell that meal with the player's name and face on the box. That's great for those of us who don't speak Japanese because you can match up your meal and say, I want the Okamoto meal. And that gets you what you want. We don't have time to talk about the economics of Japanese baseball tonight, but concessions are the key for any team making a profit. Those teams that do not own their stadiums and to own the concessions in the stadiums usually do not make a profit. Once a team controls the stadium, controls the concessions, they're usually in the black. So what's the future of Japanese baseball? Since Hideo Nomo joined the Dodgers in 1995, there have been over 70 Japanese players who have left NPB and come to the major leagues, and most of them have been the league's best and brightest stars. We all know that 2 years ago, Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Sasaki came over to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers got a huge television deal in Japan. Some people, like Bobby Valentine, worry that NPB will just become a minor league of MLB. But others, like Kakazu here, who is the assistant general manager of the Fukuoka Hawks, have thought about it and they reach a different conclusion. They say, I think it's good because it gives NPB more attention and has more people interested in baseball. So what do the stats tell us? So here's the total attendance of NPB over the last 13 years. And obviously the dip is the COVID years. But you see, they were hitting new records every single year until COVID. And after they recover, in the last 2 years, they've hit new records. So even though the best stars are going from NPB to MLB, it is not hurting the overall attendance, and it's not hurting the bottom line of those teams that were making profits. Just for fun, here's a comparison between NPB and MLB for the average game attendance. The Japanese league is in blue, and as you will see, Japanese games outdraw Major League Baseball games. What about the Dodgers? So Tom Nagishi, who was the CEO of the Pacific League Marketing, actually welcomes the Dodgers. He thinks it's an opportunity to grow baseball. Ambassador Kato, the former NPB commissioner, also welcomes the presence of the Dodgers and Major League Baseball in Asia because he also thinks it will bring baseball to a bigger part of the world. And Tomoko Namba, the owner of the DNA Yokohama Bay Stars, also comes out and says, I applaud MLB's effort to expand into the Asian market. Expanding the market benefits everyone in the industry. And she and other Japanese executives have the idea that MPB can expand abroad, not towards the United States, but in Asia. And they're particularly eyeing Taiwan. Last year, the Yomiuri Giants went to Taiwan and played 2 exhibition games. The games sold out in minutes, and they brought home a large amount of money, and as you can see, broke attendance records. Next year, the Fukuoka Hawks will be going to Taiwan, and they also expect to do very well financially there. So I'm often asked, will there ever be a real World Series between the US and Japan? And I asked this to just about everybody I interviewed. And although almost everybody wanted it to happen, they all agreed it's not likely in the near future. And there's a number of reasons. One is scheduling. The real World Series would have to take place in November at the end of very long baseball seasons. And you would have to get the players' associations for both MLB and NPB to agree, and that's unlikely. The other one has to do with money. Will there be enough profits in a interleague World Series? And as of now, Major League Baseball thinks there's not, that it will not be worth the time to open up a new stadium, to pay everybody for another month or at least another couple weeks. They will not get enough income through either revenues, through either ticket sales or through TV rights. And then the last reason that I can think of is a real World Series would take away from what is now the showcase, the international showcase of Major League Baseball, and that's a World Baseball Classic. World Classic has risen from a very small enterprise into a major event over the last few years. And I think this coming year, we're going to really see it come to life, and it's going to be an incredible success. So why would Major League Baseball like to put up a competitor to that at this time? So at the end of a major NPB baseball game, you will also see the team come out and bow, something you won't see in MLB. So thank you. That's the end of the presentation, and I am more than happy to take lots of questions.
If you have a question for our presenter tonight, Rob Fitz, go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the react button. Once you hit that button, you'll see another button marked raise hand. Raise your hand. We'll get you in line to ask questions of our presenter tonight. I've always been fascinated by Japanese baseball. I could never understand really why we could not get better coverage or video, whatever it might be, here in the United States. Granted, we have a time difference and such, but there was this one streaming service on, I think it was my old Roku, that had games occasionally. Uh, I, I really wish we could see more of that league here. I have you met Gabriel Lerman by any chance, Rob?
I do know Gabe.
Yeah,
And
he
that's a
was
great
with us.
that is a great question, and it's a question I asked all the executives, and the answer is very discouraging. The Japanese executives feel that the monetary effort and the man-hour efforts of reaching out to North American fans is not worth it.
That's very interesting.
That they feel that to do it right, they would have to hire translators, they would have to do it in English, they would have to establish English websites and get full-time staff, which is something I never thought of, right? Maybe I'll do it for free, right? Um, and they just feel it's not worth it when they can look towards Taiwan
Hmm.
and they get tens of thousands of Taiwan baseball visitors every year. So I am in touch with a lot of people, like people at Pacific League Marketing, and I'm encouraging them, come on, take the first step, at least get merchandise here, which you can do very cheaply.
Yep.
Um, but they're not ready to do it yet. You can subscribe to Pacific League TV, however, in the United States, but it's all in Japanese.
This Major League MLB TV is kind of cool, and I'm sure they've got the bandwidth. Hey, Dennis Snelling, how you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Go get him.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good. Hey, two quick questions. One, how does the fan behavior differ in the minor leagues from the major leagues? And then the other thing is, at the major league level, do they do giveaways like they do in the US?
Two great questions. All right, so I had that same question about the minor leagues because after watching Japanese baseball for 30 years, I had never been to a minor league game until September. So I went to two in September. And minor league baseball in Japan, the two games I saw were very similar to American minor league baseball. The Yomiuri Giants used lots of piped in rock music because the fans weren't cheering. There were no Owendan, there were no chants. The fans acted like an American fan, and, clapping a good play. They did not yell out things. That was different. But there was lots of piped in rock music to fill up the dead space. That was kind of disappointing. Um, the second question, I'm sorry, Dennis, remind me on the second
The
question.
giveaways.
The giveaways. They don't do that as much in Japan. There are some giveaways. Um, and a lot of times when you walk through the gate, they will give you a little gift. But it's very small. It might be like a 8.5 by 11 glossy printout of a player or a fan. So it's rarer than in the US.
Dixie Tarango, you're up, man. How you doing, Dixie?
I'm doing fine, Rob. That was great. Great presentation. Answered a lot of questions. I have two softball questions for you.
Like this.
You said you did your interviews via Zoom. Do you speak Japanese?
I speak very poor tourist Japanese. There's a couple people who know me very well. I see Max about to laugh. Max knows that after I have one beer, I can order a second beer. And that's about the extent of my Japanese. It's a little better than that, but not much. So I used an interpreter. Trevor Raichura, who some of you may know from the Japanese baseball kind of universe. He's done some wonderful blogs. He is completely bilingual. He knows baseball probably better than I do. He was an amazing interpreter. So he helped me get in touch with people. He knows the right etiquette to ask for an interview, what to do, keep them happy with me when I put my foot in my mouth. He was great.
Second question is the ties. Do the ties come after 9 innings, or do they give them one more inning to try and break it?
The Kais currently come after 12 innings.
Ah, okay.
One time it was 15 innings, now it's 12. And the ties, it's kind of bizarre how they count in the standings. They count as half a win and half a loss. And how you do that mathematically, I can't tell you off the top of my head.
The only thing I have as a suggestion for your program is that you need to have a map of Japan
Ah,
and show where all the cities are that have the major league teams. That would be very helpful.
I'll try that. For me, of course, that's common sense, but you're right. Most people don't know that. Thank you.
Mark Hoyle, you're up, man. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good, Richard. That was an awesome presentation. Kind of like a two-parter here. Who is the most revered U.S. player that's played over in Japan, and who do you feel was the best?
Ah, that's a great question. Hard to answer. I think the most revered U.S. player is Randy Bass. Randy Bass brought the Hanshin Tigers a championship back in 1985. He cannot walk down the street in Japan today, and he is much, much older now, but he's still very recognizable. A quick little story is once upon a time when I was not quite 30, living in Japan, I had a beard and I was wearing a Hanshin Tigers hat and I was walking around the Baseball Hall of Fame. And though I'm probably a foot shorter than Randy Bass, a entire schoolboy class pointed at me and yelled, Randy Bass, Randy Bass, and I had to hide in the men's room. So he's revered.
Are the Mo Berg stories true that we hear?
Not really.
All right.
Yeah, Moberg did some really bizarre behavior. I've written a book on that, Bonsai Babe Ruth. Moberg pretended to be a spy when he was in Japan, but as far as we can tell, and I and some other people have looked through declassified documents, Moberg had no affiliation with the U.S. government at that time.
And I have a Japanese card that has the Ted Williams on
Yeah,
it.
valuable card. That's a nice one.
So is he only played on All-Star games over there, correct?
He never actually made it to Japan.
All right.
So why they picked Ted Williams, I don't know. Probably just because he was so famous back in the 1940s.
Very cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Is the courtesy runner used in extra innings in Japan?
No.
No.
Yes, thank God, no. But you know what they would do? They would bunt him over because they can bunt in Japan.
True.
It'd be no problem.
True. All right, next up is Joy Benjamin. Let me get that right, Joy. Joy Benjamin is here. Joy, are you a SABR member?
I am the SABR member.
Good. I'm glad you're here tonight. This is the first time you've been in one of our meetings. I don't recall seeing you before.
I'm from. I've come to some meetings, and Rob and I go way back.
Well, welcome to Northern New England and ask away, my friend.
Absolutely. Good evening, Rob. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you. Joy, it's wonderful to see you again. Thanks for joining.
Quick question. We currently know the status of the relationship between NPB and JPBA, especially after their 2004 strike.
Right. You want to know more about it?
No. Well, I know more about it, but I just want to know what the current state of it is. Are they?
I don't have any inside information on that. I met, as I was finishing off my book, I met the guy who works for NPB on the league side, who does the negotiations, and sadly, it's too late to include him in the book. And I thought about the idea of getting a union representative and talking to them. I did not meet somebody who could, and my editor made me cut it short. I had another 10 people I wanted to go talk to, and I had to stop it. I think it's 27 made it into the book. So I really don't have any inside information for that, other than my feeling about it is it's going pretty well. but I could.
Yeah, it's hard, that road, just from my research on that lane. It's pretty hard to get in there. But I'm looking forward to working some more on that lane. So I'll touch base with you more about that.
Please, I'll be happy to get you in touch with a couple of people.
All right, will do. Thank you, Rob. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Joy.
Super great to have you here tonight, Joy. Let's go to Gary Joquin, who will be our last one tonight. Gary, you're up.
I just had a couple of questions along the way. Do Japanese fans look down on other fans who don't participate in group cheers? Is there peer pressure among the fans?
That's a good question. I would say from what Jenny told me during the interview and from my personal experience is if you are sitting out in Gaia and you are expected to be, she says you're expected to be working out in Gaia. That if you recall, that's the area near the O and Don. Then if you just sat there, yeah, people would give you funny looks, especially if you were a foreigner. They'd be like, you really shouldn't be here. In the regular stands, no, not at all. I mean, my friends and I don't usually cheer. Max, I've gone to Max and Ninomiya here is in the audience and he's nodding his head. We've gone to a dozen games together and we usually just sit around and talk. And so it depends on where you're sitting. And it also depends on the ballpark. Hiroshima is a lot of fun. The fans there get into it. And so I'll sit there and I'll join some of the cheers, even though I barely know them in Hiroshima. In most of the other ballparks, I just hang out and watch the game.
It was interesting that unlike the States, farm systems for Japanese teams are smaller and they're corporate sponsored. So does that mean there's less of a salary gap between the players and their minor league system and the major league system? Like there is it less of a void, an enormous void, like it is here in the States?
That's a great question. I did look up, and I meant to put it in the presentation tonight, the difference of salaries between the two leagues, and that is the average NPB salary is basically $300,000. I think it's $299,000 per player per year. Where in major leagues, the minimum is now what, 797, something like that, $100,000. So the average is under 2 times less than the minimum in the major leagues. What it is for the minor leagues, I'm sure it's standardized. I'm trying to remember. I remember one of the people in the minor league stadium, I took a tour, was telling me something about, I think the players are charged $300 per month to live in the dorm or something like that. And that was a chunk of their salary. So they're not paid a lot of money. I'm sure of
Yeah.
that, but I don't have the exact figures. Great question. I'm going to go look it up after we're done, actually.
There you go. Oh, and thank you for a very timely presentation after a pretty incredible World Series.
Thanks for Bruce.
Dave McNeely in the chat says players are signed to the 70-man rosters and don't have a separate salary, whether they're on the major league or minor league rosters.
Thanks, Dave.
Rob, tell us how to get the book.
Wow, that's easy. Here we go. Here's the book. You can get it if you want a signed copy to you. You can get it on my website, which is robfitz.com, and I'll sign it any way you like and send it right out to you. You can also now get it on Amazon for $6 more than I charge. So take your choice.
Buy my book.
Buy my book, please.
Buy it from Rob because he
copies.
charges you less. There you go. Fantastic stuff. All right, we are back Monday, November 10th with another Saber luminary as our guest. The great Adam Dorosky from Sports Reference will be joining us to give us his presentation. Julio, Ichiro, Minoso, and Carrillo. Professional Baseball's 4,000 Hit Club. The sign-up link is available in the chapter meeting booklet and at the Saber events calendar. And finally, if you're a baseball fan watching on YouTube and you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to be alerted to each of our weekly uploads. And if you're not yet a member, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, SABR boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world, like Rob Fitz. For more information, go to SABR.org today. Rob, you're fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
I appreciate you. We'll have this video up probably tomorrow. Let's get everybody out of here so we can all go to bed. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.